We're Zeke and Terry, midlife empty nest travel adventurers.
Join us as we navigate our lives and the world, mostly together. This week we're talking about Umbria, Italy, the landlocked region to the east of Tuscany that offers up a treasure trove of historical, architectural, and gastronomic delights. Many Americans go to Tuscany and they aren't even aware of this fantastic area.
Didn't you say it was less crowded than what you experienced in Tuscany last June when you were there with our son Adam?
Yes, I wasn't even aware of this area until I started watching videos as part of our research. I learned about Umbria from Stanley Tucci's Searching for Italy program. I tend to like to go places where other people aren't, and this checked all the boxes we were looking for. Great food, great wine, historical and beautiful towns, lots of history, and ancient art.
Our son Adam graduated from college last May with a philosophy degree. During his last semester, he took an Etruscan art class and was very excited about being able to see in person all the things he was learning in class.
And that was just great. He was so excited, which is always important when you're traveling with your kids, even adult ones. And he was a font of knowledge. I had my own private tutor as we explored Italy.
That college education was worth it. You and Adam tend to have pretty high energy when it comes to travel. Which towns did you visit?
Yeah, we tried to visit 2 towns or villages a day, and we were able to group them together by visiting one town in the morning and then driving to the next for lunch and to explore. This meant that I could enjoy wine with lunch and then not worry about driving directly after.
That was smart.
Yes, especially since I did 98% of the driving in Italy, which really was fine with me. I love driving in Europe except for Switzerland. And Adam wasn't thrilled about driving in Italy, although he did check that experience off of his list and will most likely not ever do it again. One day we went to Assisi and Spello. The next day we went to Spoleto and Todi, and then we started our day in Orvieto before we drove to Rome. While we stayed in Perugia, we stayed outside the old city walls and didn't actually visit.
Didn't you stay in a castle in Perugia?
Yeah, but we were across the valley from the old city and didn't have time to see it. When we are there in May, we are staying at Castello di Monterone, the same place Adam and I stayed at, and we are definitely going to spend an afternoon and an evening in old Perugia.
You and Adam rented a car in Bologna and drove through Tuscany and Umbria before dropping the car off in Rome. What was that experience like, and do you think a car is necessary to explore Umbria?
Well, you'd probably love cycling through Umbria despite the hills. For me, getting around by car is perfect. We were able to see a lot, and we had flexibility around where we went and what we visited. At one point, we saw a town on a hill and decided to go there. And if we were on a bus or as part of a tour, we wouldn't have been able to be spontaneous.
Adam complained about the Italian drivers. Was this a problem for you?
That wasn't the only thing he complained about. No, I absolutely loved it. It felt like it was on a race course. We tried to get off the freeways and onto the scenic roads. We couldn't get over how beautiful the landscape and scenery was. We were often on 2-lane country roads that twisted and turned, offering spectacular views of the vineyards, the historic towns, and the countryside.
Did you ever feel unsafe? Should I bring a helmet?
Not really. There were a lot of cyclists, so I had to make sure I was driving to keep them safe. Often we wouldn't see cars for miles on some of the roads we were on. It was delightfully quiet and uncrowded.
Okay, what about driving in some of the small towns and parking? I've heard that some Italian towns have special rules about both of these issues.
Yeah, this was something I was pretty nervous about, and it ended up being a lot less challenging than I expected. Because some of the towns are really old, they were not designed for car traffic, and there are ZTL or Zona a Traffico Limitato signs, which means the area is limited to local traffic. Most of the small villages had decent signage to navigate around, with a few exceptions.
Okay, what about parking?
Most of the places we went to either had parking garages like Assisi, parking lots like Spoleto or Spello, or street parking like we had in Todi. Most of the parking was at the base of the hills. For some, we paid for parking. For others, there was no fee. Some took credit cards, some took coins, and some didn't even work at all. Like when we were in Orvieto, the parking lot was right next to the police department and the machine didn't work. Fortunately, when we got back, we didn't have a ticket on the car.
Speaking of fees, didn't you read something about many small villages not taking credit cards at all and requiring cash?
Yeah, that was another thing that I worried needlessly about. I did get euros when we got to Europe since our banks can no longer get them for us, and then I got more than I would have had I just been traveling in France, since every place there takes credit cards. We use euro coins for bathrooms, cash for tips at the hotels, and coins for tips at restaurants, since tipping there really isn't a thing. Most places we went to in Italy took credit cards.
Did you have any trouble with your credit cards at the gas station?
Not this time. I was really worried when I nearly ran out of gas in a remote area with only one unattended gas station available. We were going to be totally screwed if the machine didn't take cards. I think my Venture One card worked everywhere. I use that one because there are no foreign transaction fees. And it's the same reason I use our Schwab account to get euros in Europe, because there are no foreign transaction fees and there are no non-Schwab ATM fees.
Enough of the logistics. Tell me about Assisi. You were last there in 1988. Has it changed much?
Well, my memories of Assisi from 1988 are so different from what we experienced, I really wonder if I went to the same place. Adam and I were both surprised by how much we really enjoyed Assisi. It's probably best known for the Basilica of San Francisco de Assisi, the medieval church built in the 13th century. The basilica is divided into two levels, the upper and lower churches, each adorned with frescoes by medieval Italian masters like Giotto, depicting scenes from the life of St. Francis and other biblical stories. I don't think we were allowed to take pictures in either level, and there were friars walking around giving tours in multiple languages. Just keep in mind your shoulders do need to be covered, and I'm pretty sure there were signs that said no talking. There's a short trail behind the church that led to an interesting sculpture area.
Did you walk around the town?
Yes, it's so cute and hilly with lots of shops, restaurants, gelato, and pastry places. Remaining fueled and hydrated is important, especially while traveling, so we stopped and had a snack and an Aperol Spritz at a little place by the main fountain. Everywhere we went in Italy, when we stopped for a glass of wine or an Aperol Spritz, they gave us these potato chips that were like Lay's potato chips. They were charming at first, but by the end of the trip, we were pretty tired of them and wanted anything else.
Wasn't there an Etruscan or Roman museum Adam loved in Assisi?
Oh my gosh, this may have been Adam's favorite part. Apparently, Assisi's ancient roots go back to the Roman era, and there is a well-preserved temple of Minerva, which may actually have been dedicated to Hercules and then misnamed. And this was one of those things. During our trip, Adam regularly complained about the plundering and pillaging by the church and the repurposing of ancient buildings and artifacts. For this particular site, during the Middle Ages, it was converted into a church. The Museo e Foro Romano, or Roman Forum Museum, is under the Temple of Minerva and has some amazing ancient Roman remnants. Pro tip, when you get the ticket for this one, get the ticket that includes the bell tower and the pinacoteca communale. We ended up buying the multi-site ticket at the bell tower after paying to get into the Museo e Foro Romano. In the 16th century, the inner chamber or cella of the temple was completely demolished to make room for the church of Santa Maria sopra Minerva in 1539. In the 17th century, it was renovated in the Baroque style that exists today.
What about the bell tower? Both of you are afraid of heights, and yet you both climbed to the top.
Well, this ended up being one of those things that we did everywhere we went, climb to the top of the bell towers. I am both claustrophobic and afraid of heights, which meant that I had to overcome both of them every time. But it was great. The views were amazing, and it's good to do things that you're afraid of. In Assisi, the 700-year-old bell tower is called Torre del Popolo, but it is also known as the Bello Tower. It's right next to the Temple of Minerva and part of the Church of Santa Maria sopra Minerva. Just to get into the place where the bell tower climb starts, we had to climb some very steep and narrow stairs. And don't ask how I got the picture of the stairs without suffering vertigo, both looking up and down.
What about the third place, the pinacoteca communale?
Oh, this may have been my favorite place once we found it. We had to ask for directions several times. We were the only people in the entire place. It's small, but the artwork is extraordinary and should not be missed.
Were there any other places of interest in Assisi that you would recommend people visit?
Well, walking around, I always recommend going into churches. There was one that we went into called La Cattedrale di San Rufino of Assisi. It was at the top of the hill if you're looking up from the basilica past the central fountain.
Did you do anything interesting on the way back down to the car?
Oh, we got gelato, of course.
Where did you go after Assisi?
Spello. Assisi was about 30 minutes southeast of Perugia, and Spello was about 15 minutes further. It's known for being one of the most beautiful and most flowery villages in all of Italy, and we thought it was cute, but it was also super steep and hilly with gorgeous views. We parked in a lot at the bottom of the hill that was free and practically empty. At the base of this medieval village is a portal consulate, an ancient gate dating back to Roman times. We stopped for a snack and an Aperol Spritz and enjoyed the view of the gates.
Were there any churches or museums in the village?
There were at least 2, if not 3 churches to support a population of about 8,500 people. The second one, Chiesa San Lorenzo Martire, had an altar structure that resembled one we later saw in the Vatican Cathedral. In the middle of the village, we came upon an equestrian statue called Il Ricordo di Francesco. We couldn't figure out why it was there, but we'd just seen that same one in Assisi.
Did you make it to the top of the steep hill?
Yes, and our calves were screaming when we got to the top. It was worth it though. There was a sculpture that was similar to one that we saw in Venice, which was so random, and the views were spectacular. There was another church at the top of the hill. This is like the third one. And just like Paris, there was a water fountain to refill water bottles near the church.
What was it like going down the hill?
Well, it was gorgeous as well. Some places were so steep that they created flat stairs to avoid sliding all the way down. We stopped at the Enoteca Properzia for a glass of wine, and the server convinced us to try the bread and the olive oil. We were so surprised at how good the olive oil was, and we wanted to take some home, but couldn't figure out how. I did see a sign for exclusive bike trips and thought we might want to check it out while we're there in May.
That could be a lot of fun. I'll get right on that. By the way, I noticed there weren't many cars in your pictures in Spello.
Yeah, this was great. I don't think we realized it at the time, but I think the only cars that we saw in the village were for locals. It was so peaceful and once again felt very safe.
And that was it for that day, right?
Yes, we drove 40 minutes back to the castle in Perugia to rest before going to dinner at Il Caldaro, a place recommended by one of our servers at the castle restaurant. It was about 20 minutes away by car and it was a very cool experience. The property was beautiful and the food was delicious.
It looked like more than just a restaurant. Is there a hotel on the property?
Yes, the Tunuta di Murlo estate is also a hotel with 9 luxury suites and 3 deluxe rooms per Instagram. I didn't check, but I'm pretty sure we can't afford to stay there.
Good thing we are staying at the castle, Castello de Monterone, which sounds expensive and drafty.
It really isn't, especially for what we get. Parking's included, which we are paying for in Venice and Bergamo. Breakfast is included, and it's a really good one. The people who work there are amazingly helpful and not only tolerated my attempt to speak Italian, but supported it. Well, truth be told, I might have switched to French.
Is there a dungeon? How about a moat?
No, but there's a full suit of armor, and we may be staying in a room downstairs rather than up in a tower, but I can't remember. There's no moat, but there is a pool on the property.
Close enough.
The restaurant serves dinner, which was excellent for one night, not so great on the second. And if you want wine or beer or an Aperol Spritz, they can always accommodate it pretty much anywhere on the property. The property's as gorgeous as are the views. If you look across the valley, you can see the old city of Perugia. Adam and I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too.
I know you took a rest day before venturing out to see other towns. I need a nap too. What 2 villages did you see next?
At this point, I think we were 2 weeks into our trip and had started in Amsterdam and Paris, followed by Venice, Bologna, and Tuscany. And yes, we were a bit tired. And we really enjoyed spending the day playing cards, napping, and enjoying the hot tub. It was a little cold for the pool. Our next town was Spoleto, which was 45 minutes almost due south from the castle.
Is there anything special about Spoleto, or was it just another beautiful Umbrian hill village?
Spoleto was kind of weird. Due to the construction, we had trouble finding the parking lot and ended up doing a fair amount of walking. It wasn't the same type of village like Spello or Assisi. It was more of a sprawling experience.
Was this the one where you had to cross the highway on foot to get to a church?
Yes. Basilica di San Pietro. Not only was it across the highway, there was a huge staircase to get to the church. If I had it to do again, I don't think I would go to Spoleto or to this particular church. There was a Roman amphitheater that was setting up for a new performance. That looked kind of cool. There was another cathedral, the Duomo di Spoleto, which was beautiful. There were multiple side chapels that seemed really old. And outside the Duomo was the Piazza del Duomo, where we enjoyed a cup of coffee and listened to the bells toll. Spoleto itself is hilly and a random mix of new and old. Once again, this was not my favorite Umbrian town.
I'm exhausted just looking at all these pictures and hearing about all the places you went, as Adam provided a historical perspective on all things Roman.
Yeah, it was exhausting, but also exhilarating. I love the history, the art, getting 22,000 steps in a day, not to mention the 20 to 60 flights of stairs per my Apple Watch.
Where'd you go next? And please tell me it involved food.
Funny that you say that. We drove another 50 or so minutes west-ish because we ended up doing a loop, heading back towards Perugia. After parking in a somewhat illegal spot that barely fit the tiny Fiat we were driving, we stopped at the first restaurant we found at the top of the very steep stairs, the Ristorante Umbria, and dined outdoors with an amazing view.
How was the food?
Delicious. But then the power went out and we were asked if we could wait for the check until it came back on. And after about 30 minutes, we just asked to pay with cash because it didn't seem like it was coming on anytime soon. That was when I was glad we had euros.
So it sounds like they were used to that.
Yeah, actually, it did seem like that.
Did you walk around the town at all?
Yes, the main square is the Piazza del Popolo, and basically that means the place of the people, with the Todi Cathedral. The site of a Gothic-style cathedral was, as Adam once again complained, once a Roman forum. It was beautiful, but we were done for the day and also worried we parked in a spot reserved for locals and wanted to avoid a ticket. Todi is very small, and there are many streets limited to locals, and getting out of there proved to be a bit of a challenge, but eventually we figured it out without getting into trouble.
Where was the necropolis that Adam couldn't stop talking about?
Oh my gosh, that was Orvieto, a little over an hour south of Perugia, and it was where we went the next day on our way to Rome.
Remind me again what a necropolis is?
I had to ask Adam this. It's essentially an ancient graveyard that literally translates to City of the Dead. For anyone who goes to Orvieto and wants to see both the necropolis and the Duomo, I highly recommend stopping at the snack stand on the way to Orvieto and parking there to explore the necropolis.
Snack stand at the necropolis, got it.
Well, that's where we had a beer and the Lay's potato chips. And then do the drive up to the parking lot at Orvieto. We ended up parking in Orvieto and then walking over a mile down to the necropolis and then walking back up, and that was pretty much not expected, and I don't think I was wearing the right footwear. One of the churches we walked into had a flower petal artwork on the ground.
That's beautiful. And I can't imagine how long it would take to put that together.
Yeah. So we were wandering around and wondering why people were making such a big deal out of Orvieto. We couldn't figure it out until we turned a corner and we saw the Duomo. This Gothic and Romanesque building is also called the Orvieto Cathedral. And just for future reference, the ticket office is across the piazza and it costs, I think, €5 to go into the cathedral.
So was it worth it to stop in Orvieto?
Absolutely. Between the necropolis and the Duomo, it was well worth the stop. There are other medieval buildings and some cute restaurants and shops in the village, but we were ready to get to Rome. There's also a funicular from the train station to Piazza Caian or Con, but we didn't take it.
A missed alternative transport option.
Well, we'd already checked that off of our list in Tuscany.
Well, I'm excited to visit Umbria and see some of the other villages. Do you have ideas on where we will go?
I'm still doing some research, so if anyone out there has some suggestions, please send us an email. at zekeandterry@gmail.com. Perugia is a must for sure. And with that, I hope that we've inspired you to consider Umbria on your next trip to Italy. And one more thing to note. This was an incredible trip with our son, Adam. After doing solo trips with each of the kids the last 2 years, I would spend every dime we have to continue doing these types of trips with them. It's worth every penny.
I'll sell a kidney. Be sure to check out the related blog posts on our website, zekeandterry.com, for more details, links, and ideas. As for other ideas, we will be visiting Venice, Rome, Verona, and Bergamo in a few weeks, and we'd love to explore some of your favorite places you've been curious about.
Yes, send us an email and let us know. We will do our best to check them out and report back.
If you like this video and want to see more like it, please subscribe to our channel. We really do appreciate your time and interest.
And now back to navigating our lives and the world
together.